See, you're not going to get the motive for the crime that Shane Meehan committed against Greg Ferenczi. That was back in 2021. Now, Shane Meehan murdered them because of the information about Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall, Rod Abrams, and Elvis Fields. That's why he targeted them. Because Todd Click and Greg Ferenczi were investigating that group of white nationalists that were affiliated to the crime and suspected at one point of being involved in the crime. So Ferenczi and Click were involved in investigating the avenues, the networks, the associations. Then Shane Meehan goes out of his way, tracks them down, goes to the office, specifically targets these two officers and kills Greg Ferenczi, the one that he knows for a fact is involved in this. Shane Meehan also, now, at the time of the murder, is also involved in this white nationalist Old Norse mythology. So the actual motives for the crime are suspected, right? Are suspected because it's never been confirmed of why. So now they find at the time Shane Meehan committed this crime, he's temporarily insane. He's not fit to try. Why? Because if he is fit to try, the motives come to play here. Because what they need to do is figure out a way so they can make it look as though he wasn't targeting Ferenczi or Click, that this was completely at random, and that's the play with the insanity. The state, the judges and all of this involved in the Shane Meehan are just as corrupt and dirty as Franco. And they're doing their best to hide this information, and they're obviously conspiring along some networking with the Freemasons or Nick McClelland. This is all an attempt to hide this from the public's information, right? They don't want the public to find this information out, because if you find out there's an operating network that this fucking ex-mayor Shane Meehan was involved in now killing with these two officers, that means that it's factually going on there. And they can't have that come out to the light of day, because then the whole thing with the Richard Allen case, when that was going on, you see how they even worked it out where they would have Richard Allen put away first before they dealt with Shane Meehan. Shane Meehan was arrested within the first week of the crime, of the 2021 crime that he killed Greg Ferenczi. So why was it that it took so much longer to prosecute Richard Allen? Well, the thing is that they wanted to make sure that they could get Richard Allen put away before, because of the possibilities, if they're not, if the judge doesn't go this way with finding the Shane Meehan temporarily insane, this can come out with the whole thing about Ferenczi and Click. You see, this shows the fucking state is not just a snake, it's a fucking dragon. And this dragon is going around and they're committing acts within the government in order to facilitate hiding information from the public. The information would sustain why it is that other law enforcement officers are not investigating what it is that's being confirmed. Do you understand? They're fucking hiding this right there in front of you. And they're using all of this subliminal shit in order to, within the brotherhood, gloat, humiliate the victims, re-victimizing. None of these people are at rest. None of them, because they've all been murdered by a network that's been facilitating these criminals behind the scenes and leaking information to them in order to clean up the evidence that they wouldn't want leaked out, right? Because they're worried that this person found out some information because they're involved in the investigation, or they've given information about an actual witness that then was in turn found dead in a fire, an arson. That was an accident. And that's been happening for 7 fucking years. 7 years. FBI officers, law enforcement officers, other victims of this group that has been targeted not just to eliminate information from coming to the light of day, but they've also been targeted to facilitate the trafficking and all of the content that they're bringing over to the dark web. Like, they're still going about and committing these acts because they haven't been held accountable for their crimes. So why is it? See, context is king, and that's one thing that I agree with Rick. If it's taken out of context, they don't understand. That's what they've done with Shane Meehan, and that's why they've done this whole thing with finding, because there is no context now, right? You don't you don't know factually from what they're claiming, because they're going to come up with a way to systematically make this, put a pretty little bow on top of it to make it look like, well, Shane Meehan just lost his shit and killed this cop for no fucking reason. That's what they're attempting to play here. So why is it, though, We do these tests 5, 10, 15, 25 years later. Even if somebody's been convicted for the crime and then they've been found out, hey, that's not the person's fucking DNA. Hey, you know what? The person that actually did this, the DNA that would definitely be associated to the killer, we found, and it's not this person, so we're going to exonerate this person, release them from prison right now. Why do they do that? Because they want to make sure they got the right killers and they're not still out there killing people. But because of this law enforcement agency, these people have been allowed to continue to go out there and kill fucking people for trafficking, for fucking drugs. It's a spiral effect. It's a downward spiral. And these people are using all of these different elements of the criminal networking in order to expand their enterprise. And that's what they've been doing for a long, and that's where we're at. They've expanded. What's at play here has been at play since 2017 and nobody's done a fucking thing. Can you imagine how many victims are not being looked at? We know of the ones that are being looked at, and some of those ones, the only reason why is because they're high profiles. Greg Ferenczi, FBI agent, murdered. Why? Because of the information we're talking about with Brad Holder, Elvis Fields, Patrick Westfall, and Rod Abrams. Stacey Thompson, why was she murdered? She was involved in the polygraph test with the Florida fires. That was also, she then in turn was also involved in the DELPHI crimes. So rumor has it that she was also involved with the polygraph testing of certain suspects. Well, not too long after that, she's found murdered in a house fire that they're going to claim is, you know, an accident. This is not an accident. It's the same thing they did to the Florida fire girls.
All right, welcome everyone, and I'm glad to see everyone here. Tonight is Sunday, December 15th. I hope that you heard Rafi there. He was telling all of the truth, okay, all the whole truth, and that was one of Rafi's greatest monologues, and he's done a lot of good ones. Uh, but yeah, that I hope that you go back and listen to it again in case you didn't catch it all. Uh, Spot on. Okay. So we're going to get into the show, but before we do, I want to say hello to everyone and then we'll get started. Okay. So let me back it up a bit. All right. And all you lurkers, you're welcome to join. Okay. Come on and join. All right. Say hello to Say What? Teresa, Dawn Steele. All right. Mel, Sarah, Amy, David Gray, Dawn, I said Dawn, Jamie Boyd, Miss K, Andrea, Asha Harry, Lisa, Mar R, Bobby Smith, Ninja Warrior Assassin, Sweet Dude Shibby, Heavy Metal Rehab, Rick, Kate Eleanor, Crazy Girl 1203. Who else is here? Rebecca Ann 1965, Siren Cindy, Dory, Aaron Town, Digital, Mino Dino, Lead with Love, Woman Doing, Renee O, True Justice, Who's Your Daddy, Monday, Trial Junkie, Plain Iron, Heather Brown, Mother McReady, B. Sheridan Tibbetts, and 5 Green Acres. And I think I've caught everyone. Oh, hey, it's a new day. Okay, so welcome all. Welcome all. Tonight, we are going to be discussing the most concerning thing. This is the aspect of this case that no one wants to ever talk about because if you talk about it, you sound like a fucking maniac. But we're going to talk about it because it's real, It's not a fantasy. It happens, and you'll be finding out more about that tonight. Before we get started, though, please everyone hit the like and support the channel. Do all that stuff. I put down here in the banner, Cash App and buy me a coffee and that sort of thing. And like I said, if you're in the Lurker crew, join the chat, please. And if you're on the replay, leave some comments down below, and that's how we'll handle all of this. There's so much to get through, but you guys really need to understand the gravity of what we are discussing. Okay. Now, let's start it off like this, because I want to give you some context, because I think people don't understand the reality of what goes on. And we've been focusing in particular on this area of the Midwest where there seems to be an epidemic of this occult fanboy mishmash of witchery. So some news recently broke, and I want you guys to catch this in case you've missed it. So let me put this up, and then we'll watch it together, and then we'll get into the presentation, okay?
Stories breaking from overnight. We have disturbing new details in a multi-state investigation involving what police call demonic rituals and cannibalism.
The case is centered in Morgan County. That is where Elena Sparenberg is charged with conspiracy to human trafficking and solicitation to murder. Our team found out about her arrest yesterday. Overnight, West Liberty police explained in detail what she and an inmate are accused of doing. Mariah Congito is at the alert desk. Mariah, that information pretty hard to read.
Yeah, it definitely is hard to read. It's very disturbing. It dates back to September when the West Liberty Police Department got a criminal investigation referral from Kentucky Department of Corrections Internal Affairs investigators regarding intercepted inmate and visitor correspondence. That visitor, Elena Sparenberg. Sparenberg, a former youth counselor out of Illinois, was identified as that visitor who is talking with the Department of Corrections inmate. Now, he is from Harlan County and has been in jail since 2021 on several charges, including murder. During the course of the investigation, police executed a search warrant at Sparenberg's home in Illinois. They seized electronic devices. Police say the correspondence between Sparenberg and the inmate included images, videos, electronic messages, letters, and calls. Their conversations referenced minors and adults regarding sexual abuse, rape, kidnapping, murder, mutilation, torture, satanic rituals, cannibalism, human trafficking, abuse of corpse, collecting human remains for sexual purposes, and more. Police
Okay, did you catch that? Did you catch that?
say images depicted minors from a sporting organization. Coaches and parents have been notified, as well as others who police say were possibly in danger as future victims. Sparenberg was extradited from Illinois to Kentucky this week on a Morgan County warrant. And as for the inmate, we are still working to learn his name. Police haven't released it yet. Kristen?
All right, Mariah, still a lot to find out there.
The story's breaking from
Okay, I want to go over some bullet points before we move on from this one. Satanic, demonic rituals, cannibalism, human trafficking, storing of human remains for sexual purposes, and eating. Okay, and remember, this individual here was a Illinois youth counselor. Okay, Illinois youth counselor. She's been extradited to Kentucky to face this, but this is a youth counselor using her access to children to attempt to. She's referencing minors and adults, sexual abuse, rape, kidnapping, mutilation, torture, satanic rituals, cannibalism, human trafficking, and storing of human remains. Okay. In case you thought that this is a wild fantasy when it comes to the potential ritual killing of Liberty German, okay? So you guys need to understand the context of what we are discussing, okay? Now, we're going to go into a few things, okay? Firstly, we're going to hit up this one here. Now, this is for you guys from the Frank's memorandum. Okay, now remember that I said the searchers are the criminals, okay? Searchers are the criminals. I believe the bodies were moved and staged while the searchers cordoned off the area, establishing a perimeter to allow for such in Delphi, and then allowed the crime scene to be found in the way that it was found. And here in the red square, you'll see that the scene was ghoulish. Libby was found at the base of a tree with 4 branches of varying sizes intentionally placed in a very specific and arranged pattern on her naked body. Libby was positioned flat on her back. Her left arm stretched above her head, touching the base of a large tree, and that's going to come into play. But keep in mind as we get into this, the troll farm will absolutely discount every aspect of this, as will the prosecution, which is no different from the troll farm, okay? It's all the same. It's all the same stuff here. Libby's right hand was covered in blood, and there was unknown male DNA on that bloody hand, by the way, as well as all over her body. Okay. Libby's left hand was covered in blood. Blood spots and blood drippings were seen all over her body from head to toe. Libby's right arm was placed along the side of her body. One large tree branch had been placed on her left shoulder, and that was in order to pin it up. Despite what anyone will tell you, the reason the large branch was on her shoulder was to pin her left arm into a raised position. The branch was so long that it extended above her head several feet and below her leg for several feet as well. It was more like a tree limb. It was huge. 2 smaller branches formed a V where her legs joined her body, with both sides of the V extending upward towards her head and one branch extending to the left of Libby's head, the other to the right of her head. The last of the 4 branches extended across her body on a line from left to right shoulder. The 4th tree branch also connected with the other 3 branches and was placed under both branches that formed the V. Libby's neck was partially covered by this 4th branch. There appeared to be no blood sprayed or dripped onto the leaves or the tree near Libby's head and sliced neck. It appeared likely that Libby had been killed at a nearby tree and then dragged to her final resting place, where she was then positioned before having the tree limbs placed on her in this very specific pattern. Abby was not found at the base of a tree. Abby was fully clothed. In fact, Abby was dressed in what appears to be Libby's sweatshirt and jeans, although that is we are unsure about that. She appears to have been nude and wet, and then redressed with wet clothes afterwards. No blood appeared on Abby's clothing, meaning that she was likely murdered while naked and then dressed after being washed by the murderers after she expired and after the blood had stopped spilling from her neck. Abby's hands were clean, except for the male DNA on her right hand. No blood. Abby's feet were clean. No blood. Some dirt. Other than blood found around Abby's neck area where the murders had inflicted a fatal wound, which was a very clear surgical wound, very little or if any blood was found anywhere else on Abby's body or clothing. The juxtaposition of the spots and streaks of blood found all over Libby's body and the lack of blood on Abby's body, undergarments or overgarments, is stark. The murderers appear to have gone to great lengths to keep Abby's body and clothing clean from blood. Abby was found on her back like Libby. However, unlike Libby, Abby's elbows were bent with her right arm and left arms placed on her chest. Abby's left hand and arm near the left side of her face, and her right hand and arm near the right side of her face. Although Abby's left leg was straight, her right leg was bent at the knee. The murderers also placed her bent right leg under her left leg. Like Libby, those involved in the murder had placed tree branches in a very specific pattern on top of Abby. The pattern looked similar to an asterisk consisting of 3 branches, all joined in the middle. At least one of the tree branches appeared to have been cleanly cut by some instrument like an electric saw. Rather than split or broken by hand, indicating that this was a preconceived plan, possibly. Above Abby's head were smaller sticks that had been placed over her hair, crudely mimicking horns or antlers. The amount of blood that would perhaps be expected at the crime scene based upon the location of the injuries of both girls was not visible in the crime scene photos. Okay, what's left out of here is there was also a pool of blood with a stick formation that identically matched the stick formation on Abby's body. We'll be looking at some of that later. The defense has provided the court with 12 crime scene and autopsy photographs marked as exhibits 5 to 16. Okay, these photographs support the descriptions provided in the previous paragraphs. In addition to the unusual way the girls were posed, including the stick formations placed on their bodies, another unusual marking was found on a nearby tree. A symbol that looked similar to the letter F appeared approximately 4 feet above the base of the tree. The F was red in color, and later DNA testing showed that the F had been painted on the tree using Libby's blood. Okay. Additional blood spatter was found at the base of that same tree. All the blood at the base of the tree appears to also have been Libby's blood, and the pool of blood appears to be Libby's. Okay. There's also indications that Libby was walking around the crime scene bleeding, sitting up bleeding, and then laying down bleeding and dragged. Okay. Under Abby's left lower back, a shoe was found. This shoe is believed to be Libby's shoe. Under the shoe, a cell phone was found. This is the phone that was in the possession of Libby, or is believed to be Libby's phone, or the phone which Libby had possession of. This information was confirmed by recent deposition testimony of Liggett, Lesenby, and Holman, the 3 liars. So we know we can't believe anything that comes from them. According to the recent depositions taken of Sheriff Liggett, the famous video of the person that many people call Bridge Guy was found on this phone. But we now know that this video was not what it appears to be. This video does not show as it was portrayed for 7 years, meaning for 7 years, they insinuated that this video was intentionally taken by the victim in order to capture this mysterious figure, and that this mysterious figure was close to the girls, and that it was an entire act of bravery and intelligence to capture this video. We now know, due to several good people in the courtroom, that this video was actually taken by chance of this individual who seems to be very far in the distance. It's my belief that this person is possibly Daniel Pearson. Okay, this person comes across as a mere speck, as something the size of an ant. Person is not very well seen. All the imagery that we have seen out here in the public has been interpolated, enhanced imagery that is not really equatable to the original. We'll be finding out in the future, very soon, hopefully, we'll be seeing that original footage and be able to go frame by frame for you and demonstrate to you the stark contrast between what was created that we have all been calling Bridge Guy these years and what was there. We'll also be able to intensely scrutinize the audio and determined that it's very unlikely that a gun is mentioned. You'll be finding out that all of the aspects of this narrative that has been put across to us uh, has all been somewhat of an attempt to establish the scenario where the girls are abducted from the end of the bridge by someone with a firearm. Okay. Now, the interesting thing here also is that the voice that is captured in this whisper, saying something to the effect of down the hill or something along those lines. Like I said, that audio has also been so um, heavily edited that it's very difficult to establish what is contained in that. But we will be at some future point, okay? But we also know that it's very unlikely that that voice belongs to the image of the figure who appears to be off in the great distance, okay? So at this point in time, it's very unlikely that the voice belongs to the individual captured. It's very unlikely that the individual resembles anything that we've seen uh, in terms of this brief video that was put out by law enforcement, and then it then leads one to question the entire scenario, whether or not that individual had anything to do with with the voice that said something to the girls in their very close uh, vicinity. So we don't know that yet, but we will be finding out. But that's not the point of the show tonight. I'm just sort of going off because this bridge guy was mentioned. Um, Now, what we need to keep looking at here is that in his August 8th, oh, let me see, that's not what we're looking at, is it? Oh, I see. There you go with the bridge guy. Okay, I'm gonna forward through that. There, at his August 8, 2023 deposition, Sheriff Liggett was adamant that one person and one person alone, Richard Allen, was involved in the murder of Abby and Libby. However, off record, Liggett doesn't believe that one man was capable of pulling off all those tasks, especially in such a short period of time, leaving behind a crime scene with no forensic evidence. As referenced earlier, Liggett says one thing publicly under oath, but a different thing off the record to his buddies. One of those buddies is former sheriff and now chief deputy sheriff Tobe Lesenby. The day after Liggett's August 8th, 2023 deposition, Tobe Lesenby was subject to a deposition. When Tobe Lesenby was asked at his deposition how many people he believed was involved in the murder of Abby and Libby, Lesenby provided a different answer than Liggett. He indicated that at least two people were involved. Lesenby's deposition, page 19, lines 19 to 20. The reasons Lesenby gave as to his belief that at least two people were involved in the murders was Lesenby's belief that, quote, it would be difficult for one individual to accomplish what occurred. That's from deposition, page 20, lines 9 through 10. Okay. When asked if any other law enforcement officers shared this perspective, Lesenby provided a surprising answer based upon what Liggett had testified under oath the day before. Yes, at least one other law enforcement officer believed multiple people were involved in the murder of Abby and Libby, Tony Liggett, according to Lesenby's own sworn statement. It was common for he and Tony Liggett to have one-on-one conversations that Tony Liggett definitely believed that more than one person was involved. That's Lesenby's deposition, page 103, lines 20 to 25. Tony Liggett, who just the day before under oath claimed that only one person, Richard Allen, was involved in the murders, privately behind the scenes to Tobe Lesenby at a minimum, was saying something altogether different in one-on-one conversations with his law enforcement friends, good old boy buddies. If a cult consisting of more than one person in a coordinated fashion lured the girls to the bridge, abducted the girls, then collectively were able to perform all the tasks mentioned in the previous paragraphs, and this was earlier they described all the steps would have taken to accomplish this task. That perspective would cut against Liggett's sworn claim that the murderer acted alone. Conversely, even more problematic for Liggett is that stating under oath what he actually believes, that is, that more than one person was involved in the murders of Abby and Libby, would then lend credence to the fact that the accumulation of evidence gathered by Murphy, Ferenczi, and Click strongly supports that on February 13th, 2017, several men from something like a pagan religious cult were involved. For some reason, Liggett is obviously not interested in wanting anyone, including Judge Diener, to know that the evidence strongly supports an organized pagan cult being the killers. Therefore, sadly, it is not surprising that Liggett lied under oath when he claimed in his deposition that only one man acting alone murdered the girls. If Liggett had told Judge Diener that he believed multiple people were involved in the crime, and if he also provided Judge Diener with the massive amount of missing details of the Odinist involvement in the murders, including evidence of the Odinist intimate knowledge of the crime scene, then there's no way Diener would have or should have signed the search warrant. In addition to the white supremacy component that exists within Odinism or heathenry, there seems to be an additional dark demonic component. At least if articles concerning Odinist human sacrifice and imagery found on the internet, coupled with imagery and language found on Brad Holder's Facebook page, are to be considered. As an example, the defense has attached Exhibits 30 to 34. Exhibits 30 and 31 were found on the internet. Exhibits 32, 33, and 34 are different versions of the same image that Brad Holder posted on his Facebook page. As you can see, law enforcement wrote the words, "Painting by Brad Holder, Odin hanging from the world tree" on Exhibit 34. Okay. Additionally, Kevin Murphy was a state trooper who investigated the Odinist angle, said this about Odinism, quote, "It seemed to me to border on almost a satanic type of worshiping, sacrificing, but I couldn't really wrap my brain around it." Exhibit 30 is an image from a website on Odinism of a man hanging upside down from a tree who has been sliced in the neck with blood dripping to the ground. This man's arms are posed similarly to Abby's at the crime scene. This man's legs are also posed similarly to Abby's at the crime scene. His left leg is straight, his right leg is bent at the knee. The only difference is that the man's right leg is placed over the left leg, while Abby's right leg was posed under the left leg. And if you want to know why I believe the differences occur, it's because rigor mortis. Okay, they used the tree limb to pin Libby's arm because you could not just leave Libby's arm there and it stay there because of rigor mortis. There would be movement of the muscles. So the arm was pinned up, just like with Abby, the leg was pinned under her other leg. Okay, so it would not move in the process of rigor mortis. Okay. Perhaps the most damaging piece of evidence that links Elvis Fields to the crime scene was found in an unusual place, the middle of a report that memorialized the results of Mary Jacobs' polygraph examination. In Mary's pre-examination interview, polygraph examiner Stephanie Thompson, what are the odds, recorded that Mary Jacobs stated the following, quote, "Elvis told her Abigail is a little troublemaker, then that he placed leaves on her and used sticks to give her horns. Horns and antlers are common symbols used in pagan rituals, and Brad Holder himself displayed the Odinist fascination with horns on his Facebook post. Find attached Exhibit 97 from Brad Holder's Facebook page. As you can see, the middle photograph is an image of a person with small stick-like antlers on top of their head. Find attached a close-up of Abby's head from the crime scene. From a distance, it may not be immediately noticeable. However, upon close inspection, it's obvious that someone involved in the killings intentionally placed small sticks on top of Abby's hair to resemble horns or antlers. The horns formed from sticks on Abby's head look similar to the image found on Holder's Facebook page. Okay. The defense has not viewed one single report that discusses the sticks placed atop Abby's hair shaped like horns or antlers being compared with Elvis's statement to his sister that Stephanie Thompson polygraphed. Okay. Therefore, the presumption is that Unified Command, which are three good old boys that we just mentioned, never figured this to resemble horns or antlers. The defense has not viewed one single report that discusses the sticks placed atop Abby's hair, shaped like horns or antlers, being compared with Elvis's statement to his sister that he shaped sticks into horns on Abby's hair. Therefore, the presumption is that Unified Command never figured this out. Trooper Purdy was present at the polygraph examination, but was not able to watch the examination and therefore would not know about Elvis's words to his sister Mary about using sticks to form horns on Abby. Rather than now being curious in the year 2023 as to how Elvis knew such a thing, and then using this new information as a basis to secure a search warrant or even an arrest warrant on Elvis, sadly, it's expected that law enforcement will do the exact opposite of being curious. It's expected that law enforcement will claim the photograph does not prove anything, or that defense is exaggerating the photograph. Perhaps Unified Command will huddle together and establish the go-to party fucking line stance that the good old boys often do, okay, with how to deal with the problems created with the polygraph exam information and the photos of the crime scene. Okay, it would be refreshing if someone in Unified Command could stop worrying about the public impression of their incompetence and corruption, admit to mistakes, and perform this type of police work that should have been performed 7 fucking years ago. Okay. Odinism is the pagan religion referenced above, and its followers are called Odinists. Odinists are enamored of Viking Nordic culture. Evidence supports that this crime scene, these murdering Odinists left behind obvious signatures in the form of runes. These runes were formed with sticks, fashioned with tree branches, and painted using the blood of the victims. Sticks and tree branches were deliberately, carefully, and proficiently placed on each girl in a certain arrangement, mimicking certain runes. At least one of the branches appeared to have its end cut off cleanly by some type of tool, like an electric saw, providing proof of a possible preconceived plan. Additionally, the blood of Liberty German was used to paint a mark on the tree with a rune that looks similar to an F. A simple Google search, these runes would become identifiable as one of the many calling cards of this pagan religious cult. Yet, law enforcement in charge of the DELPHI investigation seemingly abandoned the obvious correlation between the crime scene and Odinism, despite an obscene amount of evidence linking Odinism to the crime scene. Now, what you're going to do now is you're going to see a few things that are fucking disputable. First thing you're going to see, sticks on Abby's body. Does this look by chance to you? Does this look like something fell in this shape on the girls? How many right angles do you see here? Remember, this photo is taken from an angle here. If you were to look at this head on, it would be even more obvious. Okay? It would be even more obvious. This is taken from above her head, looking down on her. So, of course, it looks a little off kilter or askew. Okay? If you were to take a photo of this from directly overhead, it would be indisputable to you what you're looking at. Okay, now let me continue. These are the sticks Before I continue, this exact same formation also happened to be placed on top of a pool of blood. Yes, these are the actual sticks. You see the one stick that has the clean cut happens to be the stick that's placed on top. Okay, these are the actual sticks. And as I was saying, this was exactly mimicked over the pool of blood. Okay, this is a rune. You'll find out soon enough. These are the sticks that were placed upon Libby's body. Okay, and what I have done, because that largest tree limb was used to pin her arm in the elevated position, I removed it. Okay, so this is what you end up with when you remove the one that's used to pin her arm into the elevated position. This is the formation. Okay. Now, you say, doesn't look like anything. Well, first of all, it doesn't look like those sticks fell on the bodies. Those sticks would not at all be enough to conceal a body. It does look like I see several right angles. Okay. Now, before we continue, I want you to see something else. This is from Brad Holder's Facebook page. Okay, notice if you look closely, especially here, you'll see some runes formed with sticks in the woods. Okay, once again, look at those stick formations and look at these. All right, now let's continue. As established in the previous I'm calling the sticks placed deliberately on each girl stick runes, which would be outlined in red. Okay, so outlined in red here, I have like I'm going to show you like this. Look at Abby. Look at Abby. Now look at this. You see what I mean? Okay. Look at Libby. And look at this. Okay. Sorry about that. Now, you can screenshot this page, come back to it later. I'll show you my interpretation at this point in time. Now, let's go back to Abby. Okay. This is my interpretation here. Okay, and then Libby. It's my interpretation. My tentative reading, although it's not that important, is here. It's Hagal, or crisis, cancellation, trauma, discomfort, disruption, change, uncontrollable, disaster, hailstone. See what I mean? Okay. My interpretation of Libby tentatively might be something like this, but not necessarily, Now here is a marking in Libby's blood on the tree. Okay, again, we don't know, we're just showing you things. It's all of this is open to interpretation, open-ended. This is not final word. This is not final word on anything, okay? Okay. I thought this was interesting here. The color red. Okay, now, I'll be done with this. Okay, now let's move on. Oh, pardon me. I'd like to show you a few things here. This is Eric Williams. Okay, now Eric Williams made the following statement. He said, and I'm trying to grab something for you, so apologize if it's taking me a second. I don't want to. This is all going too fast. This all moves too fast for me, but I will try to make this happen because it's important I show you these. And unfortunately, I didn't have them loaded, ready to go. So just a moment. Let me grab these to add because these have to come after this. So here we go. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to go with send them to the computer. Okay. Okay, now he says, I walked these woods. Okay, he's talking about the search. He said, I walked them woods, and what I seen was horrifying piles of animal bones. Multiple types of animals. Deer heads hanging in multiple trees. This crime was practiced on animals and led to human life. All the evidence is or was there. I pointed it out to the police at their search, but none seemed concerned. Okay, so what is he talking about? Well, I want to show you something because I've titled this show The Blair Witch. Okay, the Scourge, the Blair Witch. Notice you've got bones hanging in trees, multiple bones. If you look closely, you'll see the multiple bones here. You'll also see a meth cooking setup here if you look closely. Okay, I believe this is what he's describing here in those woods. He said it was about 1,000 yards or more back from the high bridge. Okay, and notice the meth cooking setup. There's a bucket, There's some blow-off jugs. There's some tubing. It's a meth cooking setup. It's no question. Okay. Here's the shack. I call this the shack. This is the shack. Okay. Have I made it clear enough? What I call this is the shack. This is the Blair Witch shack. Okay, this is the shack. Notice there's some chains. There's a pallet. There's the bucket way in the background. You can see the meth cooking setup. This is the meth shack. Okay. This is the Blair Witch. Like, notice the, just like Eric Williams said, there's bones in trees, bones stuck in trees. If you look way in the back at the top, there's a meth shack. You still see the bucket perfectly framed. These are professional photographs. Okay. All right. Okay. Piece of advice. The pallet was used as a table. Okay. The pick, the hot dog roaster there was used as a pick to pick off chunks of the ice or the meth. The chains are used to help catalyze the reaction in the bucket. Okay. Now this is a photo from Brad Holder's Facebook. Okay. It's a Blair Witch. Okay, so let's see. We're gonna get something else for you because let's see. Make sure I have the right page here. There you go. Patrick Westfall's connection to the crime scene. Much of what connects Patrick Westfall to the crime scene has been discussed in the section detailing what connected Brad Holder to the crime scene. To shorten this section, the defense would numerically lay out both the evidence previously discussed as well as a few other pieces of evidence that tie Westfall to the crime scene. Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall were friends at least until late January 21, 2017. Okay, as proven by a Facebook photo previously attached. However, according to Amber Holder and law enforcement monitoring Facebook posts between Holder and Westfall, a fight between Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall occurred sometime in February of 2017 concerning a ritual gone bad in the woods near a creek. The Odinist report of Ferenczi, Click, and Murphy, and remember, Ferenczi was assassinated by Shane Meehan. That's what Rafi was discussing in the introduction. Brad Holder told Amber Holder that the person that murdered the girls was Patrick Westfall and his crew. Who's his crew? Furthermore, as referenced in the Odinist report, Brad Holder told Amber Holder that Patrick Westfall is dangerous and has powerful friends that will protect him. Sounds like that's what's been happening. And that she, Amber Holder, needs to back off or he will not be able to protect her. Brad Holder told law enforcement that Patrick Westfall has PTSD. The video or the ritual in Fort Wayne that Ferenczi Sit Liggett, which has been attached as an exhibit, shows Brad Holder videotaping someone that looks like Patrick Westfall. Okay, we'll skip that. Patrick Westfall lives within a 7-minute drive of where the girls were murdered. Johnny Messer and Brad Holder commonly hung out at the High Bridge and in the woods around the Monon High Bridge. Did you know that? Did you know that? Let's reread that in case you didn't already know that, because all too often we skip over pertinent details, relevant details. Johnny Messer and Brad Holder commonly hung out at the High Bridge and in the woods around the Monon High Bridge. Commonly. That's a very specific statement, is it not? Johnny Messer and Brad Holder commonly hung out at the Monon High Bridge and in the woods around the Monon High Bridge. That's according to Messer's October 23rd, 2018 videotaped interview that the defense received on September 8, 2023. This can be heard at the 14-minute and 5-second mark. Let's skip ahead. Number 15. Patrick Westfall was a pastor for a religion known as Azatru, which is a warrior type of religion with many gods, including Odin and Thor. Patrick Westfall and Brad Holder were both affiliated with Vinlanders Club or gang, along with Johnny Messer. Did you catch that? Patrick Westfall, Brad Holder, Johnny Messer are affiliated with the Vinlanders gang. This information is contained in multiple places, such as Exhibit 39 and in various points in Johnny Messer's October 23rd, 2018 videotape statement, and was only provided to the defense on September 8, 2023. Okay. Johnny Messer's connection to the crime and crime scene. As previously discussed, Johnny Messer was close with Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall and also knew Elvis Fields, Ned Smith, and Rod Abrams. Furthermore, Johnny Messer was a recruiter for the Vinlanders. Also, Ned Smith, Rod Abrams, and Elvis Fields all hoped to join the Vinlander Club, according to Messer. Around Valentine's 2017, Johnny Messer went up there to Delphi to hang out with his Vinlander buddies. As stated earlier, Patrick Westfall claimed to be at home in Delphi on February 13, and Brad Holder claimed to be in Logansport on February 13. Therefore, if Johnny Messer was going up there to visit his Vinlander buddies, he was going to Delphi to spend time with Westfall, who was like Messer's brother, or possibly to Logansport to visit Holder. No, unless they were all there. Okay, I'm about to start sniping trolls. I see you coming in. I see you coming in. Okay. Now, when Messer came back from being in Delphi around Valentine's Day, the vehicle he drove, which was Taylor Hornady's car, had blood along the side of the vehicle, and he had no explanation for the blood's existence. Taylor Hornady had to go to the car wash multiple times to clean off the vehicle. Evidence shows that recruiter Johnny Messer was the connective tissue between the Delphi crew and Rushville crew. Unified Command obviously overlooked all this shit because this ain't the objective, as Raffi was stating. Okay. Now we're going to skip here to page 104. If Tony Liggett knew about the obvious connection between Odinism and the murders, and specifically the connection to Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall, Johnny Messer, Elvis Fields, and Rod Abrams, based upon the evidence provided to the court, the fact that a mystery Purdue professor purportedly led the Unified Command off the scent of the Odinites is preposterous. Additionally, according to Click's affidavit, the FBI cold case unit determined that Odinists were involved in the murders. Unified Command did nothing to investigate the Odinists. Unified Command seemingly rebuffed the Rushville investigators, Ferenczi, Murphy, and Click, and have punished them all. All right. Liggett's concealment of this Odinist information from Judge Diener was intentional, reckless, or both. And Judge Gull's blocking of this third-party information from being presented as part of the defense was potentially obstruction of justice for Mr. Richard Allen. Okay, and we know here that Liggett falsified concealed evidence in his affidavit for the search warrant. Okay. We're going to skip over all the gobbledygook regarding all these witnesses. We know none of it makes sense. Okay, and we're going to go over to this here. There's a reason that in his sworn affidavit, Liggett concealed key information from Judge Diener and lied about other key information. Had Diener known about the hidden and falsified information or facts, then Diener would have not signed the search warrant, a search warrant that was already insufficient in linking Richard Allen to the murders, even before Liggett's deception. Liggett's concealed and falsified evidence would have told a completely different story had Liggett not concealed evidence and lied about evidence. And remember, they even tried to hide this from the defense themselves. Remember the whole story with not knowing. Hold on a minute. I'm sorry. Okay. Remember the whole not knowing about Jeffrey Turco? Okay. Let's see. Where are we? Lying about the timeline. Lying about Richard Allen told Liggett to his face that he left the old CPS parking lot by 1:30. Okay. And got home at some point before 2:15 p.m. A person driving a car resembling a 1965 Comet, angular in shape and not black, backed their car into the old CPS parking lot. Then at 2:15, Betsy Blair drove by and observed the car that she remembered what it looked like because it reminded her of her youth, a car her dad drove, a 1965 Mercury Comet. But because Richard Allen left the parking lot at or before 1:30, it explains why the man Betsy Blair observed was boyish and youthful looking, 20 to 30-year-old man, poofy brown hair, possibly Daniel Pearson. Okay. There's a reason that the man Sarah Carbo observed on 300 North at 357 was not wearing a blue coat like the man Betsy Blair observed. It's because the man she observed wasn't the same man that Betsy Blair saw on the bridge at 2. It was a completely different man that had mud on his clothing. Betsy Blair saw one man. Sarah Carbo observed a completely different man. Okay? After his arrest, Richard Allen was forced to be housed in Westville. On April 3rd, 2023, two of the guards walking Richard to and from his visit displayed prominently patches, one, "In Odin We Trust." Okay. The lower of the two patches consisted of an American flag with interlocking triangles. The interlocking triangles is a common symbol for those involved in pagan Odinist religions. Above this American flag with the interlocking triangles was a patch proclaiming, "I hate people." Those are the patches. Do you think this is any coincidence? Okay. Furthermore, let's get to another not coincidence. During one memorable visit on May 4th, 2023, Max Baker, Attorney Baldwin, and Attorney Rozzi met with Richard Allen to discuss matters involving the case. At this time, Richard Allen was in a mental and physical state of deterioration and nearly non-communicative. During the visit, Richard Allen repeatedly asked whether or not his wife was okay and if his family was okay. He claimed on a couple of occasions that they were going to kill him. When asked who he was referring to as they, Richard Allen responded as saying, "The guys with the Odin patches." Up to this point in the legal process, Richard Allen's defense team had not ever mentioned Odinist or Odinism to Richard Allen, either directly or indirectly. The first time any Odinist involvement was ever mentioned to Richard Allen was during the August 25th. Okay, so that's from May to August. Months later. We will continue. The fact that Odinists are guarding Richard Allen is very concerning, or at the very least curious, considering the evidence discussed in this Frank's memorandum. The fact that Sergeant Robinson stopped wearing his "In Odin We Trust" patches within days of Jerry Holman and the Unified Command learning that the defense was fully aware of evidence linking Odinist to the crime scene and that the Unified Command has avoided investigating the Odinist is curious. Again, the court should have determined whether Liggett acted intentionally or recklessly when he omitted or lied about the information when he drafted his search warrant. Anyhow, we know that didn't happen. I'm going to get on to the last one I want to highlight for you in this document. To prevail on its request for the court to set this matter for Frank's hearing, the defense must make a substantial preliminary showing that omitted or false statements were made knowingly or intentionally or with reckless disregard. If the trial court concludes that omitted facts or false statements were necessary for finding a probable cause, the trial court should have set a hearing on defendant's request. Okay. The defense provided a very, very long, detailed analysis of the facts because the court must determine whether evidence exists that Liggett acted intentionally or that Liggett acted with reckless disregard. The defense believes that a very long, detailed analysis of the facts was necessary to provide very strong foundation from which the court could conclude that Liggett did indeed act intentionally or with reckless disregard. The detailed analysis of the facts allows the court to conclude, yes, the omitted information and false information identified in this memorandum is the type of information that Judge Diener would have wanted to know. Okay. But keep in mind what happened. Okay. She totally ignored all of this information. Even though when Labredo and Scrimmin were in there, in lieu of Mr. Baldwin and Rozzi, she offered them the opportunity for this Frank's hearing, okay? Which is odd, but more so than that. Once the Supreme Court reinstated Mr. Baldwin and Rozzi, and Libredo was free to act on his own accord, he said in an interview, it's very scary. One girl was sacrificed, one girl was killed. Do you want to hear that? I think you guys need to hear that because it's very, very concerning. And if you have not heard it, it is worth it. And it's only very brief, okay? Let's see. Let me put this on for you.
I thought it was hocus pocus. I honestly didn't. I'd never heard of it. And the more I got into it, that's a real thing. It is a real thing, and it's scary.
In what way?
Well, I believe they sacrificed a girl and killed another one. Some of the people that live in Delphi were very brazen about their Odinistic beliefs on their Facebook pages and other social media accounts, including the sergeant who was in charge of keeping Mr. Allen safe in Westville.
You described one of those officers that's mentioned in one of Rosie and Baldwin's filings, Sergeant Jones, who was wearing patches that said "In Odin We Trust" on his Department of Corrections uniform.
Yep.
The judge ordered the warden to make them stop. And then what did you notice?
That Mr. Jones had a tattooed under his right eye. From the best we can tell, it looks a lot like Odin's spear. And he had several tattoos on his forearms, including the interlocking triangles that are on his Facebook post. I got to give credit to Mr. Rosie and Mr. Baldwin that, they picked up on that. We saw him, and, confinement officers at the Allen County Jail aren't even allowed to have facial hair, let alone facial tattoos. I was a little miffed that the warden allowed that, or, he even knew what it was.
Okay, so this is Judge Gull's handpicked replacement friend. But it's still a fantasy, right? Okay. Now this is very important. And let's see what I need to do because I feel like I'm forgetting something here. All right, so this is from the August 1st testimony of Dr. Dawn Perlmutter at the hearing on the motion in limine, okay? Now this ended up being a shit show, as you should expect with this entire trial, but I'd like you to understand some of this, okay? Tell the judge a little bit about generally what you do involving instruction. I train local, state, and federal law enforcement agents and analysts across every branch of government. going through some of those. Ritual homicide investigation. Is that a course you have taught? Yes. That's a training I've done for 20 years. And that is, again, case studies of numerous different types of ritual homicides, what to look for, and how they proceed through different process and that kind of thing. And do you still teach that today? Yes. Okay. And you say to whom you teach that to? Yes, to local, state, and federal officers. What federal officers are agencies? Again, Homeland Security, sometimes DEA, FBI, different agencies. Okay, now the next one is ritualistic crime scene investigation. What's the difference between ritualistic homicide and ritualistic crime scene investigation? Those two courses. The ritualistic crime scene investigation is everything except the homicides. Like that can be theft of human remains. It can be blood rituals that are done with certain subcultures, mutilations, just every different type of manifestation of, narco cults, palo, mayobi, just different types of things that officers would come across that don't involve homicide. Okay. Symbolic analysis methodologies. What is that class about? That's an advanced class that is for intelligence analysts and investigators on actual methodologies. When they're analyzing different type of crimes, it's a lot different. It's more than just behavioral analysis or investigative analysis. It gets into semiotics and hermeneutics, and it's just a very theoretical class teaching how to apply different methods. Okay? And we'll talk about methodology later, I think. But the last one, racially motivated, violent, extremist, and militia violence. What is that class about? That's the training I've been doing for the past couple years. Racially motivated, violent extremists involves like white supremacy groups, neo-Nazis. When I do these trainings, I focus on the identifiers, the different types of ideologies and religions that they hold, things like tattoos and rituals and initiation rites that would be associated with those groups. What is your educational background? My background, I have 3 advanced degrees. 2 are in art and art history, which applies in terms of methodologies, a doctorate in arts and humanities from New York University, but that was interdisciplinary. So it involved anthropology, philosophy, and different methodologies. I focused on methodologies. Art history is very relevant in that there's a methodology called iconography, where a lot of these different religions and ideologies have pantheons of gods and goddesses. So in art history, paintings, historical paintings, literally they call them attributes that they would go to each tradition, and that shows up as identifiers at different crime scenes. So that's how that's applied. Okay. What are your different jobs at Symbol Intelligence Group? Well, I do consulting, case consulting training. We produce intelligence bulletins that are put out to different fusion centers across the country. What would you say are your qualifications as an expert on ritual homicide and ritualistic crimes? I have worked on dozens of cases of different ritual homicide cases. I have experience with that. I have worked on probably hundreds of ritualistic crimes at all different phases and have, written literally books on this and the textbook on it. Also have crime scene training and lots of years of experience. When you said you've been involved at various stages, what do you mean by that? Well, I may get called in while they're still at the crime scene, which, if it's an unusual or atypical scene, or I could be called in at a point where it's already being adjudicated in court, or it could be a cold case homicide. So at different points in time. So you get called in maybe at the beginning, maybe at the middle, maybe at the end. Exactly. All right. And have you ever testified in court? Yes, I've testified on 3 different homicide cases. Okay. A U.S. case a case that involved ritualistic crimes in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and other cases that involved ritualistic crimes. Okay. Now we're going to skip ahead. Are you an Odin expert? I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm an Odin expert. I would say I'm a generalist in the symbols of all these groups. So I'm able to distinguish from somebody practicing Odinism versus Christian identity, which is another white supremacist religion. So as a generalist, you're able to distinguish the different types of ideologies from what you're seeing at the scene. I want you to talk a little bit while we're on the topic of Norse paganism and Odinism and white supremacy groups. How would you describe, like, is there one way that Norse paganists operate, or is it multiple different ways? How would you describe that? Well, Norse paganism is a huge category. There's neo-pagans that are non-violent. There's dozens of different groups. They practice differently. They're decentralized. They can be geographically located. Then you have variations, they worship different pantheons of gods. Then you have racist neo-pagans that are very popular in the prison system. Okay, this is where it's rich, because this is what we're looking at. And much more violent and do blood rituals. So there's lots of different types of neo-pagans. I mean, some refer to themselves as Asatru or heathenism or Wiccan. There's lots of different groups. Okay? Let's see. I want to go to what type of things or analysis do you use when reviewing a case? Depends on the things found at the crime scene. I do use what is called symbolic anthropological methodology, which is different than behavioral analysis, which is based on psychological methods. The symbolic anthropology method focuses on the culture. You're interpreting the information from the person's point of view, their worldview, as opposed to the forms of psychopathology. So it looks at different cultures and ideologies. Okay. Have you ever seen there to be a problem in terms of law enforcement understanding what's going on at a crime scene? Yes, it happens quite often in these very atypical types of crime scenes. There's very little, if any, training on crime scenes. I mean, you can walk in, you have terrible mutilations with animals and things written and the worst types, symbols cut into people. And there's different traditions, like, for example, satanic ideologies. They do lots of ritual murders, and they have a certain symbolism specific to them. They will usually dismember or mutilate. They'll have pentagram type things there. If you have like a Palo Mayombe, which drug traffickers do, they'll have like a cauldron with a human skull in it that was stolen from a grave. And so every different scene is specific and has very specific attributes and specific identifiers to the different groups. And they're quite different, and it goes to their particular traditions and what they're doing. Well, how would it be, though, that law enforcement get it wrong? I mean, I know a pentagram is Satanist. I think I would know that at least, but how do law enforcement get it wrong sometimes? Well, again, it's methodological. It's perspective. If you're only interpreting things from a form of psychopathology, and somebody's doing these heinous murders, it could be viewed as a sexual sadist, or it could be viewed as a serial killer, and without attributing the ideology that goes with it. So it's just a different kind of interpretation, a different perspective on it. Okay, so we're going to skip ahead a bit, and we're going to go over to runes. In Odinism, Odin was considered the father of runes. He discovered them after he hung on the tree, the world tree, for 9 days. But runes are they're a Nordic language that's imbued with magical qualities. So there's elder Futhark and younger Futhark, and they're used across the spectrum. A lot of different groups use runes, but they're very specific to Odinism as an identifier. What about blood as it relates to magical thinking in Norse paganism religions? Well, blood rituals are part of Odinism. I mean, the racist Odinist version, where it would involve, there's a concept of blooding the runes, where you're kind of consecrating your runes. You would have an altar and be doing things with blood. Also, some do animal sacrifice. Hold on. Remember Patrick Westphal wanting to move on from animal sacrifice? And that being the reason for the falling out with Brad Holder near the creek in the woods in February of 2017? Okay. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Next is symbolism at the crime scene. What is that? Well, that's everything from things carved into trees, hung in trees, sometimes, like I said, carved onto the victims. Interestingly, what happens a lot, which I train officers on, is with these outdoor scenes, they will use natural objects as part of the scene. They'll use branches to either create a circle, or they'll use rocks or create symbols with the natural items at the scene. Well, shit, girl, what is this? What is this? Okay, body disposition is also identified as the sixth ritual murder crime scene forensic indicator. What does that mean? How the body is positioned has a very specific meaning to the offender. Oh, you mean, you mean like this? You know, one of the ways of indicating it's a ritual murder is that it's not a counter-forensic measure. What's a counter-forensic measure? If somebody's just committing a crime and wants to get away with it, they'll hide the body, bury the body, avoid biometrics. They'll cut the fingertips off to avoid identification, literally hide so that the police can't investigate who the victim is or who the offender is. That's not what happens in ritual murders. The body is positioned in a very specific way that has meaning to the offender. Okay. And lastly, atypical blood pattern. What does that mean? Sometimes the blood of the victim is used as a part of the ritual. It's used in the symbolism. It's used a lot of times. It can be almost like to anoint the victim on their face, or a lot of typical, atypical, unusual things. Are done with the blood of the victims. How would you define a ritual murder? Well, ritual murder is a murder that goes beyond the conduct required for the killing. Okay, what do you remember reviewing for this case to form some opinions about whether or what happened in Delphi on February 13th and 14th? What was it? I reviewed crime scene photos, autopsy reports, the blood stain pattern report, a report from the behavioral analysis unit, I think the Indiana State Police, and I'm trying to remember a lot of social media postings and a ceremony video, a police interview. And what did you ultimately conclude about the crime scene? In my opinion, this was a textbook ritual murder. It has all the elements that are listed there. When I talk about indicators, for example, when you're doing fingerprint analysis, you need 12 to 15 matches to have a good indicator. This has numerous indicators of the types of things you have at a ritual murder. Okay, we're going to actually go through 1 through 6. I don't know. We're going to hit 7. Okay, but place of death, ritual murder, crime scene forensic indicator. I'm putting this, etc., on the easel. Okay, so this is a crime scene photo. What about this crime scene photo causes you to believe that it applies to number 1, place of death, that it determines a ritualistic murder? This aerial view really shows it's almost like a clearing. Okay, so she's talking about the area where the girls are found, which is somewhat of a clearing in the woods at Ron Logan's. Okay, she's going with place. Okay. Now, secondly, she goes to another very important point. I want to put that on the screen for you because so many people have fucked around and found out regarding this. Okay, let's see. The only holidays that fall between February 13th and 14th is one, and there weren't any celestial events or anything at the time. It's called Valisblot. It's an Odinist holiday for the son of Odin, Valley. And it actually is a sacrificial holiday. Hello? Are you out there listening to this Blair Witch shit? Are you listening? It's an Odinist holiday for the son of Odin and is actually a sacrificial holiday. The thing is, holidays are from sundown to sundown. So even though it's on the 14th, it starts on the 13th at sundown. Excuse me, when do these girls go missing? So the fact that these crimes occurred on the 13th and 14th is because of Valisblot. Does that say anything? Is it obvious? What does it tell you? Well, the dates, they're not as strong an indicator, but it's another thing to look at. It's a specific Odinist holiday. There are other dates like Samhain and Beltane, and there's ones that are very specific to other groups, but none of the other ones fall in this area. So it's a strong indicator? Yes. All right. Next is cause of death. Sharp force injuries to neck. Tell why the cause of death in this case is an indicator, a forensic indicator, that it was a ritualistic murder scene. Because with sacrificial ritual murders, well, there are different types of ritual murders, so they're done for different reasons. For example, there's exorcisms that can be done with fire. You have other cases where the bodies are dismembered, but the specific slitting of the throat is indicative of a sacrificial offering or initiation. You see? Valisblot, sundown to sundown. Clearing in the woods, time and place. Slitting of the throat, indicative of sacrificial offering or initiation. Okay. All right. Let's look at down here at the bottom. So next is symbolism at the crime scene. This one I want to be very careful with, so bear with me. I want to talk about third-party component of this. I don't want to talk about third-party component. I want to talk about symbolism. Symbolism at the crime scene, which is a forensic indicator, the 5th forensic indicator. Okay. No, let's skip her and go back to this because there we go. What I really want to focus on is this photo. What is indicative of it as it relates to ritualistic murders? The branches were placed carefully in that arrangement. It appears to be identical to the marking, and the person is creating some type of symbol. In this case, after reviewing everything in the context, it appears to be what's called a bind rune. What is a bind rune? A bind rune is when you combine two or more runes to create personal symbols or to create or combine the power of two different things. It's done quite often. It's a very common type of practice, a magical practice. Okay. I'm handing you another photo. I want you to review this and tell me what the significance is. The significance of it is this person is discussing on their post how they put a mark on their body. It was a Gibo rune and felt like different things were happening in their life, that the gifts the gods were giving, both positive and negative, he felt that he had to add another rune to it, which he did, the Isa rune over top, creating the bind rune. And then literally at the end of the post, he's repeating, Isa rune, Isa Gibo, and then he combines the words Isabo. This is indicative of someone who's thinking magically. They are indicating that they believe that the mark they had put on was having certain things happen in their life, so they added the second rune to control aspects of their life. So this clearly indicates somebody who believes in this type of rune magic, Blair Witch type of shit. Okay. And for the record, this is a Facebook posting from Brad Holder. Is that correct? Yes. And this is the close-up version of that hand, the marking on the hand. Is that correct? Yes. And you talked about a second ago, why is that significant compared to the stick arrangement found on the body? It's identical to it. It's somebody it's the exact same for configuration. Is there any way that it's a counter-forensic activity, the 3 sticks found on this young woman? No. They're not hiding the body at all. It would not work. It doesn't function that way at all. And there were other indicators in what I reviewed in a number of runes being done in the sticks. There were a number of social media photos of the scene, not just the marking, but sticks in the shape of runes. So there was rune magic being done in branches in the woods. This is what we're saying, or she's saying. They were specifically arranged into bind runes, and they were done in wooded areas, and that was prior to the homicide. Okay, still on the symbolism at the crime scene, I want you to look at the way Libby's body was displayed. Okay. Looking at the stick arrangement on Libby's body, does that tell you something about this forensic identifier symbolism at the crime scene? That had specific meaning to the offender. In my opinion, it's intentional. The branches were placed in a very specific way. It's obviously not a counter-forensic measure because she's completely exposed. Let me show that to you too. This is how exposed she was. Okay, don't get it twisted. She's absolutely exposed. She's so exposed that they had to redact parts of her body. Okay, she's completely exposed. Let's be real here. She's completely exposed. Let's be real. It could also be a combination of symbols. It's important that it had specific meaning to the offender and it wasn't trying to hide the body. This is what I was referring to before with the arrangement of these branches in the woods, the arrangement of which they are, in my opinion, runes. And being on these social media posts, and the arrangement is very similar, almost identical to the arrangement that's on the victim. Okay. It tells me that it's a process of what isn't, of what it isn't, and it's not. Like I said, in categories. In the categories of Satanism or exorcisms or narco cults or gangs, these are natural objects that are being used and consistent with social media postings, with literally rituals that are being done in the same configurations. So it shows that it's a connection to that person. Okay, for the record, LL was Brad Holder's Facebook post that was of 2 sticks, runes as you call them, specifically bind runes. Okay, yes. Okay, let's look at a 6th indicator, body disposition. Again, it's not obviously a counterforensic measurement. The careful placement, positioning, and natural objects on top of the bodies, also the symbols at the scene. So the body position or disposition and the cause of death inside that sort of creation or a sacred grove or clearing, it's all classic identifiers of a ritual murder. Okay. Talking about the body disposition. Brad Holder's painting is presented. So what does this hanging man image and the body disposition, the 6th indicator, what does that tell you about this third party who posted this? The positioning of the legs are identical. The image itself is a very common classic painting that is a depiction of Odin. It is used in the tarot cards, although the tarot is not part of this, but it's an image that's very common in Odinism, where you have him depicted during sort of the primary event where he's hanging on the tree for 9 days, discovering the runes. And that's significant because the classic imagery is usually that it has the other leg bent, but the painting is the same leg and positioning of the leg as the victim. Also in the painting and with the victim, the eyes and mouth are open. Okay. All right, so, and then this one is presented, as I've shown you. So this was a crime scene photo. What's the significance of this as it relates to a forensic indicator? This significance is that the stronger significance is that it's the victim's blood and that it's a marking on a tree near the crime scene. In my opinion, it's an intentional mark. It's not like an obvious symbol, again, under Satanism or other types. It appears to be consistent with ancient alphabets that are used quite a lot at these scenes. Sometimes you get Enochian or Eden or Arabic or Hebrew. You get lots of different ancient alphabets that they believe imbue magically. This symbol is most consistent with runes. And again, with runes, they are depicted a number of different ways online, and historically, they've been stylized. So there's different fonts. But this is what appears to be an intentional mark. And the significant thing, which is very consistent with ritual murders, is that the victim's blood is being used to create the symbol, to give it a magical efficacy, gives it more power to what the person's doing or thinking. Okay. I think you read the blood spatter report. They don't view this as intentional. Well, I'm not a blood spatter expert. I've taken some training, but to me, this is an absolute intentional mark, says Dawn Perlmutter. It does not seem consistent with splatter. Okay. Okay, so then what is significant? What is significant to you in terms of trying to assess third-party suspects in ritualistic crime scene settings? And she says, this is a posting on social media, a posting of an altar, an Odinist altar, again indicated by the objects on it, the ritual objects. And the person who did the posting was talking about he had put a rune in his own blood on the tree 2 weeks before, and it was still there. And the date 2 weeks before would have been about 2 weeks after the homicides. And this rune was done in blood. Again, just another indicator that this is the type of ritual that is a blood ritual that was done by an Odinist group that identified themselves as the Asatru warriors. Remember, Patrick Westphal considered himself an Asatru or heathenist priest. Okay. Now, when you've been saying all the way through is it's personal, whatever each kindred or whatever each individual person's, what's personal to them. So does it mean something when you see this, what you're calling a rune on this tree? What you're saying is a rune in Liberty German's blood on a tree. Is that meaningful? Well, that he identifies as a rune. I mean, the person that identifies that as a rune, again, to demonstrate that this practice is what's being practiced or done among this group that are seeing each other online. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. Now, there's one more thing to play for you. Just a moment. Did I neglect to get that ready for you? Gosh, I'm just slacking today. It's the Blair Witch effect. It's got me all razzle-dazzled. Okay, let's see. Here we go. All right, guys, I'm getting there. So thanks everyone for being here. It's just a lot of work to get all of this on the screen in time for you. But we're getting it. Like I said, this here you're looking at, okay, is a meth making operation in Delphi here. It's what I call the shack. Okay, this is the shack. In my opinion. Now you can have your opinion. You can think that the shack is the anywhere you want. In my opinion, this is the shack. Okay. This shack was in Delphi. Okay. The shack here is a meth making operation. Okay. As I mentioned before, if you look closely, there are several items that indicate it's a meth making operation. There's the bucket. There's some blow off jugs. You have to zoom in to see it. There's some tubing. Okay. There's a shack. Okay. Keep in mind, this shack is partially deconstructed. Okay. The roof is taken off of this shack. So the tarp that would have been on top of the shack has been removed. There's been sticks removed that would have supported the tarp. The walls of the shack, which would have included some more pallets and some more sticks, have been removed. Okay. This is partially deconstructed. But I'd like you to pay attention to something. There's also the Blair Witch aspect to it, or the witchcraft, or what I call the occult aspect to it. You notice the bones in the trees, okay? If you notice carefully, though, observe that in this photograph, that orange bucket is staged to be captured in this photograph, and the shack is captured as well. So this is another angle of the shack. Okay, I've said before, these photographs are professionally taken. In other words, this pick or hot dog roaster, it's in this photograph for a reason. These chains are placed here for a reason. They're taking a photograph of this table or this pallet that was used as a table for a reason. This is a message, okay? Just like this is a message, this is a message. Just like Bridge Guy, okay? This is a message. And this is a message. Now, so my speculation here with the Blair Witch or with the Delphi occult angle is that we're dealing with the intersection of meth and Wicca, or the occult, or heathenism, or Odinism, or witchcraft, whatever you want to call it. We're dealing with ritual and meth, with Satanism and meth, which whatever you want to call it is fine with me. It's a nexus, okay? And that's what I think we're looking at here. This is the combination of the two. And these things happen often with meth psychosis, okay? A message is being sent with these photographs, and I believed from the very beginning that this message was being sent by law enforcement. This was a coded message, just like the bullet on Tobe Lesenby's desk, okay? Just like the imagery of Bridge Guy with the various sketches, that was a message. Just like Doug Carter saying the killer is in this room, that's a message. These photos are a message. They are perfectly taken on a tripod by a professional photographer. Okay, this was a message being sent. What's in the message? Methamphetamine production in this location and the bones. Okay? Now, before we close out, I want to present one further update that's really nice.
People were arrested as part of an undercover operation in southern Indiana.
WDRB's Darby Bean explains what led to all of these people facing drug charges in Harrison County.
It's called Operation Dry Ice, and the focus is getting drugs out of Harrison County. We're doing our best to get the drug dealers out of the community as quickly and safely as possible.
The Harrison County Sheriff's Department arrested at least 14 people as part of a months-long undercover operation leading to felony drug charges. Most seen here are accused of dealing methamphetamine.
Meth is, I would say, the prominent problem right now throughout the United States.
Community members say this investigation is shocking to hear about, but also good news.
I think the more safe the community, the less drugs and trafficking involved, the better, especially in a community like this. It's a small community. Everyone looks out for everyone. A lot of families, a lot of children. So if we can keep it away, then that's a goal.
We hope that this investigation opens the eyes to the individuals that are selling drugs within our country, that you don't come to Harrison County. We don't want it here. Our residents don't want it here. And we're going to do everything we can to keep the drugs out of Harrison County.
The Sheriff's Department says most of these arrests came from separate alleged drug deals. And as this investigation continues, there are other warrants out for more arrests. Anyone in the community concerned about drug activity can call the anonymous tip line here in Harrison County. That number is 738-8477. Reporting in Harrison County with photojournalist Brian Manuel, Darby Bean, WDRB News.
More than
All right, so yeah, that was the good news. Okay, as you see, there's a scourge of the dark side of magic. Okay, black magic is what I call it. There's a scourge of it and meth in the Midwest, and it goes hand in hand. Okay? Hand in hand. There's a nexus. Meth, sex, witchcraft. Do you understand? Okay, so they're cleaning it up slowly but surely, and hopefully that will continue. Again, let me play this one again, because I think you may have already forgotten. Okay, let me play this one again, because you need to understand, we're talking about Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, Illinois.
Cannibalism.
The case is centered in Morgan County. That is where Elena Sparenberg is charged with conspiracy to human trafficking and solicitation to murder. Our team found out about her arrest yesterday. Overnight, West Liberty police explained in detail what she and an inmate are accused of doing. Mariah Congito is at the alert desk. Mariah, that information pretty hard to read.
Yeah, it definitely is hard to read. It's very disturbing. It dates back to September when the West Liberty Police Department got a criminal investigation referral from Kentucky Department of Corrections Internal Affairs investigators regarding intercepted inmate and visitor correspondence. That visitor, Elena Sparenberg. Sparenberg, a former youth counselor out of Illinois, was identified as
Former youth counselor.
that visitor who is talking with the Department of Corrections inmate. Now, he is from Harlan County and has been in jail since 2021 on several charges, including murder. During the course of the investigation, police executed a search warrant at Sparenberg's home in Illinois. They seized electronic devices. Police say the correspondence between Sparenberg and the inmate included images, videos, electronic messages, letters, and calls. Their conversations referenced minors and adults regarding sexual abuse, rape, kidnapping, murder, mutilation, torture, satanic rituals, cannibalism, human trafficking, abuse of corpse, collecting human remains for sexual purposes, and more.
Do you see the nexus that I'm talking about? Drug trafficking, human trafficking, satanic demonic rituals, cannibalism, children. Okay?
Police say images depicted minors from a sporting organization. Coaches and parents have been notified, as well as others who police say were possibly in danger as future victims. Sparrenburg.
Keep in mind, the only way she got caught is because she was stupid enough to go and visit an inmate who was in for murder and talk about this over the monitored communications in the facility in Kentucky. I just feel like I need to let it play all over again. I'm sorry. I know it's annoying for some of you, but those of you who have, I mean, you really have to hear it, okay? Hear it, because normally this sort of thing doesn't make it out of the inner circle. You see, this is why this is important. This is a couple days ago. This is why this is important. Normally, they're not going to announce this, okay? She was stupid and didn't realize she was being listened to.
The story is breaking from overnight. We have disturbing new details on a multi-state investigation involving what police call demonic rituals and cannibalism.
The case is centered in Morgan County. That is where Elena Sparrenburg is charged with conspiracy to human trafficking and solicitation to murder. Our team found out about her arrest yesterday. Overnight, West Liberty Police explained in detail what she and an inmate are accused of doing. Mariah Congito is at the alert desk. Mariah, that information pretty hard to read.
Yeah, it definitely is hard to read. It's very disturbing. It dates back to September when the West Liberty Police Department got a criminal investigation referral from Kentucky Department of Corrections Internal Affairs investigators regarding intercepted inmate and visitor correspondence. That visitor, Elena Sparrenburg. Sparrenburg, a former youth counselor out of Illinois, was identified as that visitor who was talking with the Department of Corrections inmate. Now, he is from Harlan County and has been in jail since 2021 on several charges, including murder. During the course of the investigation, police executed a search warrant at Sparrenburg's home in Illinois. They seized electronic devices. Police say the correspondence between Sparrenburg and the inmate included images, videos, electronic messages, letters, and calls. Their conversations referenced minors and adults regarding sexual abuse, rape, kidnapping, murder, mutilation, torture, satanic rituals, cannibalism, human trafficking, abuse of corpse, collecting human remains for sexual purposes, and more. Police say images depicted minors from a sporting organization. Coaches and parents have been notified, as well as others who police say were possibly in danger as future victims. Sparrenburg was extradited from Illinois to Kentucky this week on a Morgan County warrant. And as for the inmate, we are still working to learn his name. Police haven't released it yet.
Okay. All right, y'all. And listen, like they have not yet announced the fruits of the search warrant executed at her residence yet. So just wait, or just wait. Just wait. Let's monitor that and let's see what's going to turn up in that search warrant at her house or her devices. As I mentioned, normally this sort of thing doesn't get out of the inner circle. But this is the Blair Witch shit that I'm talking about. All right. And there's one more thing before I end, okay? Because this is often neglected. And man, it grieves me. It really grieves me that this is neglected. In this entire conversation, because there's so much to talk about. But let me see if I can grab this for you. And instead of this, let me put up a better image. Abigail Williams played a major role in the Salem witch trials as one of the prominent accusers. She lived with her uncle, Reverend Samuel Parris, Salem's village minister. Although it was ordinary practice for young girls to live with relatives to learn housewifery, we know little about Abigail, including where she was born or who her parents were. The traditional story about the beginning of the Salem witch trials tells of a circle of young girls practicing voodoo and fortune telling under the direction of Parris's slave, Tituba. It's commonly suggested that the girls were interested in fortune telling because they wanted to know the occupation of their former or future husbands. You know, this is mythology mixed in with fact, right? Even though this version is perpetuated in historical works of literature, there's no record of any sort of group fortune telling in Parris's household. All right. Reverend Hale, a local minister, revealed in a 1702 work entitled Modest Inquiry into the Nature of Witchcraft that he knew one of the afflicted girls and knew they had experimented with fortune telling in order to find future husband's profession. But Reverend Hale fails to name the girl in question. Mary Beth Norton's work in The Devil's Snare extinguished the myth surrounding the beginning of the Salem witch trials. According to historical fact, both Abigail and her 9-year-old cousin, Betty, began showing signs of illness in mid-January 1692. When their behavior turned erratic, Samuel Parris called neighboring Reverend John Hale, this is the same Hale who wrote the book, to observe the two girls and their afflictions. Reverend Hale writes, the girls were bitten and impinged by invisible agents. Their arms, necks, and backs turned this way and that way and the other, and it was impossible for them to do of themselves and beyond the power of epileptic fits or natural disease. Parris and other ministers turned to prayer and fasting in hopes that Abigail and Betty would return to health. When the behavior continued, Parris summoned Dr. William Griggs to examine them. Okay. Griggs determined the girls were under the power of an evil hand, but I honestly think it was poisoning. Okay. With talk of witchcraft spreading in the village, the girls were questioned about who was afflicting them. On February 29, 1692, a formal complaint was issued against Tituba, Sarah Osborne, and Sarah Good for afflicting Betty, Abigail, and other local girls. Abigail Williams, along with the other girls, appeared at trial hearings. In the presence of the other girls, Abigail suffered fits and outbursts. She testified that she saw the apparition of Sarah Good at her examination pinch Elizabeth Hubbard and set her into fits, and also Elizabeth Parris and Anna Putnam Jr. Abigail's accusations continued and included complaints against Martha Corey, George Burroughs, Bridget Bishop, Elizabeth and John Proctor, Mary Easty, John Willard, Mary Witheridge, and Rebecca Nurse. Overall, Abigail Williams made 41 legal complaints and gave formal testimony in 7 cases. Bernard Rosenthal estimates she was involved in at least 17 capital cases. It is important to remember, however, that without legal complaints of the adults, the testimony of minors would have never been heard in court, as unmarried women and minors had no legal standing. During Elizabeth Proctor's examination, Abigail revealed she witnessed Elizabeth Spector, along with 40 other witches, partake in a sacrament of blood drinking outside of the Parris house. She even named Sarah Cloyce and Sarah Good as the deacons presiding over the ceremony. Abigail went on to accuse Elizabeth's husband, John Proctor, whose specter sat on her chest at night and pinched her. She also accused Martha Corey's specter of tempting her to put her hand on the devil's book. In addition, Rebecca Nurse's apparition tried to choke, pinch, and tempt Abigail into fire. Abigail accused Nurse of attending the devil's sacrament. It's not clear why Abigail suffered fits and went on to accuse many respectable people. Historians speculate that it involved the attention she received. Young girls in Puritan society did not receive much consideration, and perhaps Abigail, displaced from her immediate family, craved this unusual attention. It appears that some of her contemporaries were skeptical of her behavior. Even though Abigail played a major role as an accuser at the beginning of the trials, especially in March, April, and May, she gave her testimony on June 3rd, 1692. There's no historical documentation suggesting why Abigail virtually disappeared from the court hearings. In addition, there are no recordings indicating what happened to Abigail after the events of 1692. It's suggested she never married and died a single woman, but without any evidence, we'll never be certain. Okay? Now, libertas is the Roman goddess and personification of liberty. She became a politicized figure in the late Republic. She sometimes also appeared on coins. She's usually portrayed with two items, the spear and Phrygian cap, which she holds out on the spear rather than wears on her head. The name libertas, freedom, is a derivation from Latin free, stemming from Proto-Italic lupero and ultimately from Proto-Indo-European cludero, belonging to the people, hence free. Libertas was also recognized in ancient Rome by the rod, used ceremonially in the act of manumismo or manumisio vindicata, Latin for freedom by the rod. Now, I'd like to point or draw your attention to Liberty here, how just as the magician, which you don't see here, let me put up another photo. She appears to be touching the tree as if she is holding the tree. Okay. If you look at this photo here, notice at the top where it says tree in red, the upper right-hand top corner up here. You see, I put tree in red. That's where the tree is. Before the crime scene is found, it's assumed that she was positioned in a way that her hand was touching the base of the tree as if she was holding the tree as the rod. Okay. Now, keep in mind that I drew your attention to the fact that it's my opinion that she's positioned also as the magician. Okay. A representation of libertas, reminding free. Okay. And I find it odd that her name is Liberty German, which, as you see, she's posed backwards. Okay. As a magician in reverse here, just like this. You see little Abby is posed also as a hangman in reverse. Okay. And I believe that if you would take her name, if we're looking at Abigail Williams and we're looking at Liberty German or German Liberty. So are we dealing with a situation akin to that which was described by Libretto, where one is murdered and one is sacrificed? Is that what we're seeing? Again, we're dealing with 13 and 14. Abigail 13, Liberty 14. Valley's blot beginning on the 13th, ending on the 14th. To 13 to 14. Why examining occult symbolism matters. Former Carroll County prosecutor Robert Ives remarked that multiple signatures existed, at least 3, which appeared to be non-secular in nature. The Franks memorandum cited law enforcement investigative report titled the Odin Report concerning actions of individuals in nearby communities in Delphi, known practitioners of as a true heathenism. The FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit determined that individuals responsible for the homicides had ties to Nordic beliefs or Odinism. Remember, even Nicole Robertson was looking for such markers or signatures at Ron Logan's. Comments made by Professor Jeffrey Turco, professor of Germanic Studies at Purdue, with the backing of a Harvard University colleague, strongly believed that the crime scene was without a doubt indicative of someone trying to replicate Germanic runic script, or their idea of what you do when you perform a ceremony or a sacrifice. This presentation is not meant to sensationalize the murders of Abby and Libby, and it's not meant to stoke unrealistic fears or point fingers at a whole group of people. It's our intent to help expose more information regarding the case, knowing well that the chasm is already without end, but that doesn't mean nothing can be done. Education and knowledge is power, is it not? Okay. There's one other thing I want to read for you. But as you know, it takes a second here. I've posted this before. I just so that you understand, almost all of this has been posted before on this channel, either by way of the community page or in prior videos or live streams. This has all been exhibited before. I'm doing it for those of you who are newer, okay? Now, there's one other thing. And I'd love to put it on the screen, but we ain't got time for that. We're going to get this here. This is from Walter Berkeret. Okay, Walter Berkeret. So sacrificial festivals are the traditional means to overcome. Let me remove this and go ahead and talk to you guys. How the hell do I remove this? Jeez. All right, thank you. Takes a bit of work here. So sacrificial festivals are the traditional means to overcome all sorts of social crises, extraordinary situations of emergency, famine, disease, may again and again lead to human sacrifice. More firmly established are the customs which deal with the recurrent crises of society, the succession of the young to the old, no initiation without sacrifice, the continuous renewal of the year too, or of cycles or seasons or epochs, is given dramatic accent by sacrifice. Sacrifice which celebrates the destruction of the old for the sake of the new. Myths, too, are concerned with sacrificial ritual. They clearly tell of the mutual substitution of man and animal. The animal dies instead of the man. For instance, Theophrastus already assumed, like some modern anthropologists, that sacrifice arose out of cannibalism. Pythagoreans sacrificed animals. On Abraham sacrificing Isaac, Genesis 22:13, Leviticus 17:11, see Robertson Smith. Athamas kills Lurchos as a deer. Okay. At Salamis, Cyprus, the human sacrifices were replaced by deer. The equivalence of man and animal may also lead to successive interchange, as in the cult legend of Artemis of Munichia. To atone for the killing of a bear belonging to the goddess, a girl is supposed to be sacrificed, but a she-goat is substituted, man for animal and animal for man. Greek mythology also knows the horrible converse, the sacrificial slaughter of a man instead of an animal. The oracle at Delphi, Neoptolemus, was cut up with sacrificial knives. Such scenes are not mere fantasy. Phanius of Erasus gives an account of the preparations for the battle of Salamis, which seems intrinsically probable. In full view of the enemy, women are slaughtered, blood is flowing, the altars are burning with fire. In this moment, by chance, 3 captured Persians are led along. The fire blazes up, and suddenly the seer and then the whole crowd of warriors, greedy of blood and death, demand that the 3 enemies be killed. And they were. On one occasion, even Caesar sacrificed insurgents. Often I'll say that the old world is the new world, and the new world is the old world. Somewhat of a novel idea, except for that historical literature which places Atlantis as the Americas. And in the context of Atlantis as the Americas, the old world locations become the new world locations. And so Delphi becomes Delphi, and the old world locations become the new world locations. So ancient Delphi in Greece becomes the replication of ancient Delphi in Atlantis, or the Atlantean continent. So is what I speculate correct, that someone decided to take advantage of a bad situation? Or is it worse than that? All right. Well, let's take care of some business here. Thank you, Amy. Yes, I do have another backup channel. Please go subscribe to that. If you're just watching and you're new, it's called The Prophet True Crime. Please go and subscribe to the backup channel if you'd like. The interesting thing about that channel is it's a completely different community page. So there's that. Okay. Please support the channel. We have various support pathways like Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, the Super Chats, the Super Thanks, and all of those various funding pathways. We also have the amazing comment section and the live chat. So if you're in the Lurker crew, please join the live chat. It's an incredible contribution to the channel to do some talking with us. Also down in the comments if you're on the replay. And also just in general, please hit that like. Okay, please hit that like. And while we're on the subject of support, let me go ahead and graciously thank our supporters today. 26 Dead Zombies Dude. Thank you very much. Apologize for that text message. Thought I had us on no disturbing. Okay. 26 Dead Zombies Dude. Thanks for the membership and super chat. Mudbug. Thanks for the gifted membership and super chat, Mudbug. And the super sticker. And wow, and another super sticker and another couple memberships. So whoever got those gifted memberships from Mudbug, I hope you enjoy them. And thank you, Mudbug, so much for giving memberships to our wonderful viewers here. And the support to me as well. Thank you very much, Mudbug. So before we go, I'd like to say hello to everyone who's been here. Let's see, we got Miss Heavy Metal Rehab. What's up, Heavy Metal Rehab? All right. And Heather Brown, Sweet Dude Shibby, and Augie. Amy. Thank you, Amy, for posting the links to our stuff. I am very proud of that photography. Let me put that up. I love my photography here, so you can go see that. Oh, Mudbug, you can email me anytime. Please do email me, Mudbug. So who else was I saying hello to? 5 Green Acres. Crystal. Aaron Town. Mino Dino. Lisa. Glitched. Kayla. TD3. What's up, TD3? Ashes to Ashes. Thank you for the super chat. Super sticker. Samantha. All right. Gwennon Garnett. Who's your daddy? 11. Mother McReady. All right, you guys chatting it up. What's up, Corner Piece? Thank you. Nobody Nothing, 1717. Woman Doing. Missouri Mimov 9. Kitty Beans. Lori Naran. Yeah, I agree, Kitty Beans. Could have been or got poisoning. Jules B. Crystal, I have Apophis. Rebecca Green. Mar R. Deputy Dog. You guys are all over the place. Kelly Mack, what's up? Indy Cindy. The TV series The Salem, The Witching Hour, Season 2, Episode 13. Mama Bear 2222. That's fun to say. Monday. All right, what's Monday saying? I'm so sorry that I missed all the chat tonight. There was so much reading, but you guys know I love you. Rosie Rose. Mino Dino. Okay, and everyone, Lisa, Rebecca Ann, everyone who's here super early. Possum Friend. All right, all you guys, appreciate you for being here. Kathy Finch. Raphael Webb. Bobby Smith. Okay, all you guys, if you were here way earlier, I say hello to you too, but just drop a new comment down below and I'll be able to say hi. EWTN, Fiend, welcome. CZ Zell, welcome CZ Zell. Untamable. GFC Camerato, thank you. Keena Lancaster. Good evening, everyone. Late, but better late than never. Welcome, Keena. Mudbug, $50 super sticker. Thank you, Mudbug. Mudbug's awfully generous tonight. Thank you, Mudbug. Thanks for the great live. Yes, I don't know, Green Acres. That's the question. That's the question. That is a very good question there. I mean, look, I don't think their moms would have gone for it. Like, let me say that off the jump. I don't think that the mothers would have willingly been part of that situation. But is it possible that some sort of planning was done? I don't know. I don't think that Miss Carrie or Anna would have been any sort of a part of that whatsoever. The Amish have in Allen County since 1948, they have their own laws within their community. Oh, Giuseppe is how it's pronounced. Giuseppe. Giuseppe. Oh, Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey. What's up, Frenchie 6290? Did True Detective crime story about 10 years ago. It's Delphi to a T. Same story, meth, ritual murder, law enforcement, government cover-up. You guys are giving us some good television suggestions. I have Apophis French 6290. Okay. Can one of your other mods please put your channel in here again? Please do. Please do. Amy, maybe. Oh, she did. Yeah, Amy's super freaking sweet, man. She's always helping out here. Juepsi. Okay, I mess up. I'm not a good speaker. Ashes to Ashes, thank you for the super chat. I'm always listening, usually in the bushes. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much, Ashes to Ashes. So what do you guys think? What do you think about this? The Blair Witch nature of Delphi. I mean, is that part of the overall? Like, here's the thing. Many of you still have not seen the crime scene photos. And for me, that was the thing that more than all of the remember all of the weird stuff for years. So that's something Raffi was especially proficient at, is pointing out all of the weird stuff by all of these alleged witnesses and family members. Raffi for years pointed out all of the weird stuff before we ever had crime scene photos. Okay, and then with the crime scene photos, you lay your eyes on them, and the first thing you think is, my God, what happened here? And trust me, there's no way that you can really get that effect with these cartoon-like illustrations of said crime scene. You know, when you look at this, you look at this cartoon here, it's too nice looking. It's too nice looking. Okay, or even this one, too nice looking. Okay, you're not seeing the actual girls and the actual blood and the actual sticks. You know, so there you still owe it to yourself to seek that out. Okay? Because when you see this on those poor dead babies, it becomes much more powerful, much more obvious that we're looking at some Blair Witch shit here. Okay, it's not nice. It's not illustrated with cartoon-like watercolors. Okay, it's vivid. It's in living color. It's real. It's nasty. You understand? So, God bless Libby and Abby. God bless them. And their mothers. And hey, look, people have been going around lately with a bunch of gaslighting and bullshit. Okay? Keep in mind, though, we've been given nothing. Okay? We don't have metadata. We don't have the original Bridge Guy video. We don't have the audio. We don't have the original supposed Snapchats taken by these girls or girl. We don't have the geofencing. Shit. And don't forget, the major thing that we're lacking is the entire family's cell phone dumps. All of those things that we would have relied upon for the establishing of a timeline and verifying of alibis, etc., we have nothing of it. Okay? So these people going around with the gaslighting, let's remember, okay, before you continue with that sort of patronizing, dismissive, pedantic bullshit, remember this. We have nothing. Think of all that we don't have. We don't have the marathon footage. We don't have the Harvest Store footage. You've got 7 years of contradictions, lies, inconsistencies, gaslighting by the law enforcement. Doug Carter saying there's tentacles. Well, where's Richard Allen's tentacles? We don't have a vehicle, but we're looking at a vehicle on the highway. No, we're looking at a vehicle here, and we're looking at a vehicle there, and there's no Betsy Blair, this one and this one, and Carbo, there, blah, 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 blah. So we still have nothing. Okay, we're operating on limited information and a whole bunch of open source sleuthing. And that's what we've been doing for years, and that's what we've been putting together for years, and that's where we are. When we look at where we are now, it's open source sleuthing. And even Garrett Kurtz said this whole crime is on social media, can be solved on social media. We've got dark web. We've got Dropbox. We've got tentacles. We've got pedophiles. We've got human trafficking. We've got a cult. We've got heathens, sons of Odin, bikers. What do we have here? I've said many times that the way we start this is we start with 2 dead bodies in the woods. This is the only place we can start. We start with 2 dead bodies in the woods, and they're not animated, they're real life. So I do mean God bless Libby and Abby, because as Rafi said in the introduction, these girls are not resting in peace. They have not received their justice. There's no way I believe that. But I do appreciate you all for being here and contributing. I've said ever since I first stepped foot on YouTube to discuss this, I've said the most disgusting thing here is that in the town of Delphi, somebody knows. Somebody knows. And that's just without a doubt. And I'd be willing to say a lot of people know. And it's why I've scolded the town of Delphi. And I've said, you know what? Why would an entire town keep the murder of 2 of its children, the murders of 2 of its children? Why would you cover that up and keep that secret? It's just shameful. It's shameful. And hey, we're not even touching upon the toxic culture and all the death threats and the harassment and the gang stalking and the other mysterious murders surrounding this case. We're not even really touching on that. I would like to remind you of my theories that the witnesses are the lookouts, the searchers are the criminals, as I said in my prior live stream. Were there confidential informants involved in this situation? Would that be the reason that they're covering up this murder of 2 little girls? Sure does smell like it. Sure does smell like it. And you know what's funny is that one of the searchers, okay, now fucking hear me here. You know what? I'll probably need to show you. One of the searchers even said, let's pull it up. I'll just show you quickly. I won't waste the time throwing it on the screen, but Eric Williams was a searcher. Okay. Eric said, a couple things. He said, it's a cover up. It's the girls walking in on a meth lab being ran by local cops and criminal informants. One of them snapped and shit went crazy. Local cops and criminal informants. What's up? It's a God thing. Spike Dog, everyone coming in. I appreciate you coming in. We're ending. We're almost over. But it smells like why would there be, I've said it so many times, more so than the question of who, my question is what, because the question for me would be what could be so important that it would engender this type of cover up. No one even asked or hypothesized how and when Richard Allen was cutting a branch while holding 2 girls at gunpoint, and none of them screamed except for someone who screamed at 2 a.m. Yeah. So we will be learning more. This is the thing. As time goes on, we will be learning. We will be learning more, and the more we learn, then the more we'll know. And dealing with a lack of information is difficult to discuss, but we'll be gaining some more information, and that'll help us focus in a little tighter. But it's very concerning. Thank you, Mark Ellis, for joining the membership. Thank you, Mark. If you join the membership, please go watch the Train Guy. Okay, I got a video called Train Guy. Go watch it. What makes no sense is if the area was heavy traffic local hangout, why would meth lab be there if they didn't want to get caught? Meth lab wasn't under the bridge. It was away a bit where it's not trafficked. Get it? Yeah, in my opinion, the shack, it's like almost a mile away, okay? It's a mile away. Anyhow, God bless you all. And God bless Libby and Abby. And this was our Blair Witch show. And unfortunately, we'll probably have to circle back to it again and again because it's what it looks like. It's what it looks like. Train guy is creepy. Did they ever find out who that was? Sounds like he gave specific information about the trucking company. Seems like if they cared to, they could have easily found out who it was. Good night. All right. Good night. Good night. Good night. Okay. Possum Friend, thank you for becoming a member. Keena Lancaster, God bless you and everyone. Great rest. One or two higher ups could detour anything to protect the lab. Yeah, we'll be talking about the search again because for me, the search is the most alarming and telling part of the whole story. It really is. It really is. So God bless you all. The smell from making meth, no way cover that up. Doesn't make sense for them to use that location. Too many houses. No. You're not thinking. Imagine a mile further into the woods. Then you're thinking. Then you're thinking straight. All right. Good night. Hey, Christina, what's up? Christina in the house. Holman was busy not investigating. MSW88. Kelly Mack. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Who's your daddy? In my line of work, I'm familiar with the world of CIs. All right. It's a God thing. Thanks for the super sticker. Long time no see. All right. Heather Brown. God bless Heather Brown. Merry Christmas. For some reason, I don't see you. Well, you'll see us. We've still got some time, right? All right. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, and please look. Rafi's not going to like it that I'm telling you, but go subscribe to Rafi. Warlion AASB. He doesn't like many subs, but go subscribe to him. Okay. All right, y'all. I'm out of here. Good night to everyone, and God bless. Hug your kids, hug your wife. All right, I'm out.
you.